Welcome back to the Coruscant Nights podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Cooper. My co-host is Jack. Today we are talking about Rebels Season 1. This is the first part of a four-part series where we are going to be discussing
hmm
every single season of Star Wars Rebels. If you aren't already following us on social media, go follow us. We are at Coruscant Nights. Go follow us on Patreon as well. The link will be down in the description. A big thank you to our patrons, which have grown over the last month. Thank you, Keita, Ben, Sebi, Caleb, and John. We all appreciate your support on Patreon. And the last thing I want to mention is we are very close to 300 subscribers.
Oh,
We
yes.
do want to get there, I'd say, within a couple of months. So the only way we can reach that is if you subscribe. So please help us out and do that. That would be greatly appreciated. Jack, Rebels Season 1. Now,
Oh,
I don't
man.
know if you have this same sort of feeling because we've
Yes.
obviously talked about our feelings on the Clone Wars and everything,
Mm.
but I have fond memories of tuning in every week to the Disney Channel to watch the new Rebels episode. I never had that with Clone Wars just because I was a bit too young and didn't
Mm.
understand what was going on. Whereas Rebels, it was that sweet spot. It was that right age where I knew what was going on. I was excited to see what was going to happen, and it was yeah, tuning in every week. So
That's
to
cool.
reminisce on this show for um four installments of the podcast is going to be a real
Mm.
treat. So
That's
what's
epic.
what's
Yeah.
your experience with Rebels?
Look, I didn't tune into Disney Channel for it. I was one of those people that was eagerly wanting to watch it and then waited for the DVD season releases. And I actually own, I think, one to three of Rebels on DVD, and then I think the fourth one, I think I watched it online. I think pretty sure I watched it all online, but
Okay.
but yeah, I was like eagerly waiting for the DVD release so I could binge watch them all and just experience it all like that. So I've got fond memories of putting every single disc into the DVD player. So once like the disc finished, I'm like, oh, I have to put another one in.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
especially when you get hit with that to be continued,
Oh
like
yes, of course,
like
of course.
oh
Yeah, and then you got to swap over the disc. That's funny.
yeah yeah.
Yeah, but overall, you'd say you enjoyed Star Wars Rebels.
I did a lot.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're talking about season one today, obviously
Mm.
since this is part one, and this season released originally in 2014, so over 10 years ago now. Oh no, 10 years ago now.
10
So
years.
it's actually a good time to be talking about it.
10-year anniversary.
And now, obviously, on the podcast, we haven't really touched Rebels that much. We did discuss it quite a bit through Ahsoka, but that's obviously because it was quite relevant to that
Mm.
series, but we haven't touched it on its own. So that's what we're kind of doing now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we should get into some specifics about kind of what we liked. So
hmm
what sort of I don't know, what sort of moments and episodes were your sort of favorite, Jack?
Yeah. So, overall, I think because I don't know about you, Cooper, but I haven't rewatched it since I first watched it once. This is my actually say second time only gonna watch it throughout. So going back and watching season one again was quite nostalgic, but also I tried to not let that kind of like hide any of the truth behind everything. And honestly, this season as a whole didn't really do it for me. Like as much as I did back when I was younger, I think probably because of everything I've watched now, like all the media I've kind of consumed everything in recent times with Star Wars, I think it's all just a bit it's too hard to kind of ignore kind of. However, I did ultimately enjoy a lot of moments. I think every episode probably had certain particular moments I loved, which nowadays I can't really say for a lot of other Star Wars ones. Like some episodes, I'll just generally be like, didn't even need to happen. Don't really take away anything from it. But at least in Rebel season one, I did take away quite a few things from every episode, which I love. And I think my overall favorite reason for kind of that what I was saying before is because they have this family dynamic, which I think absolutely carries this show compared to Clone Wars. And it was funny, I was watching it with someone and they said, oh, what like do you prefer Rebels or Clone Wars? And I was like, well, Rebels is a more focused storyline following a group of people that you connect with better, when Clone Wars follows characters from other kind of, properties that you maybe haven't really know much about them or anything. But I enjoy that kind of more. However, I can also still appreciate the family kind of close, tight knit bond. And that's what makes this show so special, in my opinion. So, honestly, favorite episode for me has to be The Path of the Jedi.
Yep.
And I absolutely loved the temple and everything about it. And I'll get into another thing later about that episode, I think. But I just love kind of the callbacks to like Empire Strikes Back a little bit of it, because obviously it's before, but it's not in, release order, it's going back. So it's quite funny. And I just loved the aesthetic of it. I loved Ezra's kind of, emotional kind of elements to that. I also loved seeing, even though it wasn't real, like the Inquisitor's kind of presence in that episode was just really cool, and it just built him up a little bit more too. I think, even though it was fake, it just built up his kind of threat and kind of menace he is, which is great. And I also want to say as a big positive for this season too, and the show as a whole, is their use of music. They really, really love. See, when I was younger, then I didn't really. I just thought music was cool, but I never actually connected the two because I was too
Yeah.
young to connect original trilogy kind of music
Yeah.
to Rebels. So seeing like the chase music from like the Falcon and like A New Hope and everything, it's just so it puts a smile on your face. You're like, that's a nice little touch, which I think I would like to see live action shows, like even Ahsoka. Imagine if we got some of them musical cues or something. It's just
Yeah.
they just add that little bit extra. It's not what's it called? It's not what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Nostalgic?
No, yeah, they play on nostalgic, but it's not thrown in for what's it called? I always like to say thrown in for no reason, just for audiences' reactions. It's not.
It's not necessary?
Nah, I can't remember it. I can't remember the word.
Okay.
We like to use it all the time, and like it's not a cameo. This is really going to trigger me for the
I
whole
can't
podcast
remember.
now.
I don't know what word you're talking about.
Fan service. That's the one. Got
We were
it.
banking on fan service.
No, fan service. I'm talking about like for the music. It's
Oh,
not banking on fan service to like
okay.
get you like, oh yeah, I remember that from the original movies. It's just a nice little touch. I think it's perfect.
Okay.
So overall, I think I enjoyed the season. That's my favorite episode. However, there is still, which we'll discuss later, quite a few negatives, I think, to
Mhm.
this season as a whole.
Yep. I will just say quickly because you did mention music, and I do
Mm.
agree with you. It was nice hearing the chase theme and even the Imperial March every
Oh
now
yeah.
and then. That was really cool. I
Mm.
also think that the sound effects were really good as well,
Mm.
especially the Force. They
Yeah.
it was like a little. I don't know how to describe it. Like crystallized sort of chime. It was a
Yeah.
chime whenever Ezra used the Force, or I don't think it happened when Kanan used the Force, but definitely when Ezra did. And it reminds me of when Kylo Ren uses the Force in the
Mm.
sequels. It's a bit different of a like sound effect, but his is very much more menacing, but you get that sound effect when he uses the Force.
Mm.
So actually, I suppose you get that with
You
most
get
of the
you get
sequels
it.
because you get
Yeah, you
that
get it
kind
with
of
a
like
few.
thumping pushback and stuff. So
Mm. Mm.
yeah, it was nice to hear that in animation because oh, you
Mm.
do get it in Clone Wars a bit different. Anyway,
Mm.
overall the season I thought it was slow.
Mm.
That doesn't mean I didn't like it because there were, like you said, there were some great moments, and I
Mm.
definitely felt that I connected with a lot of the episodes better than I did when I first watched the season.
Mm.
And I'll get into one that I've written down as my favorite in a minute. But overall, I really just felt that this season was a good establishing season for our characters. You get the dynamics, you understand Kanan's the stoic, brave Jedi.
Mm.
Ezra's the kind of,
Rogue.
he's a rebel
Mm.
teenager, but has everyone's best interests at heart. He just wants a family.
Mm.
Sabine is kind of similar. I guess she embraces her artistic sort of
Closed off a little bit, maybe.
yeah, closed off. I mean, we get more of Sabine in season 2 and 3 and 4, actually. Zeb's kind of the muscle and the comedic relief. Chopper's the comedic relief, sorry. And Hera is just the pilot, which
The
I
leader.
thought was a shame because she didn't really get that much development.
Mm.
One of my least favorite episodes, actually, she got the most development, which is a shame. But
Oh, this could be
anyway,
funny.
but look, it really, like you said before, it really brought together that family dynamic. I think that's what makes it so different from the Clone Wars, despite the setting and the actual like content in the
Mm.
shows. I
Mm.
think the fact that it focuses on this group that are really a family and working through the upcoming of the Rebel Alliance against the Empire, I think that's just really, really beautiful. And
Mm.
obviously, season one's not going to be our favorite season out of the
Mm.
four, but you really get that sense that this is the theme that they stuck with from the first season and went all the way through
Yep.
till the fourth season.
Yep.
Now, I want to talk about my favorite episode, and it was one I only watched recently,
Mm.
and it's called Call to Action. and it's the one where Kanan sacrifices himself, gets captured by the Empire, and allowing the other rebels to escape. The whole premise of it, first of all, I think it was great action and content in it. It was
Yep.
all about trying to disrupt Imperial communications. They wanted to make a significant impact.
Statement.
And, pardon?
Like a statement. They want to
Yeah, a
make a
statement,
statement.
exactly. Yeah. So I thought that that whole premise was good. Obviously, they've kind of been doing that in Lothal, but this was kind of on a
Mm,
bigger scale.
mm,
Um, and then I think what really made this episode is Tarkin. Obviously, the Imperial
mm.
forces haven't really been that much of a threat. They've kind of been all over the place.
Yep.
Tarkin comes in immediately. He gets the Inquisitor to decapitate the two
Yeah.
like lower generals. I can't remember their names, but that was nuts.
I hated
And
those
then he
characters.
really gets callous, and the Inquisitor and the Senator into shape. Like, this cannot happen. What are you doing?
Mm,
So. I think that that's really cool in seeing such a prominent, well, not a prominent, but such an authoritative figure in the original trilogy
mm.
come into this show and basically be like, you're not doing good enough. These are the consequences. You got to do better. And
It's
obviously, we see Kanan's capture as a result of that.
yeah. It just I think this is like one of the very few times that Tarkin actually does something like himself rather than just speak stuff or take over people's occupations and stuff in terms of
Yep.
like Death Star builds and everything. I think he actually finally takes a bit of action on himself,
Yep.
which is always good to see. So yeah, I agree with
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like this one was probably actually I did mention to you a
Mm,
while ago that I felt that the show didn't start till about episode 4, which is the one where they go to rescue Luminara from the Imperial
yeah,
prison. But this really feels like it feels like the how do I describe it?
the
Let
build
me
up to
compare
the
it.
others.
Well, yes, it is a build up, but it
Yeah.
feels like in comparison to like a Bad Batch,
Mm,
where you kind of know where the story's going, but it kind of just slowly progresses. You
mm,
kind of get that in like the middle of Rebels. This
yeah.
third episode is the real like stimulant to the finale. It's like
True. True.
that one really good episode prior to the finale that
Yeah.
gets to the finale. Like so much happens, but you
Elevates
don't
it.
really get that in Bad Batch.
I feel
Um,
like lately we haven't gotten that in many. The penultimate
yeah,
episodes have felt quite lackluster. That's what we've
yeah,
been saying, kind of like, where's this build up anticipation for this finale? And it's like,
yep,
didn't really pay off,
correct.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So I really appreciate how season 1 ended, and obviously that's why it's my favorite episode. I could have
Yeah.
chosen a few, like you said, the Jedi
Yeah.
Temple episode was really
Yeah.
good, and that's one that I definitely remember watching on TV and getting
Yeah.
real excited seeing the Inquisitor show up.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was fun. Also, fun
Nuts.
fact,
Yeah.
Jason Isaacs voices the Grand Inquisitor,
Yep.
and I
Hmm.
best know Jason Isaacs from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So that was a nice little
That's
surprise to learn.
yeah, it's really cool. I think the reason I couldn't get him to do live action was money, probably. I think it was, but
Probably,
for
probably.
Obi-Wan, but obviously it makes sense now after watching Obi-Wan. He was in it for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Also, I know we didn't really get a lot. We won't touch on the Grand Inquisitor that much,
yeah,
but I kind of feel like he didn't get that much screen time in Obi-Wan, obviously, but he also didn't get that much screen time in this season.
he just kind of pops up now, feels like in
Yeah,
random projects before, obviously this
yeah,
season. And it's
yeah.
like he was threatening in this season, but then just kind of and then it just stops, obviously.
I remember
Yeah.
him having more of an impact like
Same.
from the first time I watched it. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like maybe we thought the season one went longer when we were younger,
Mm,
maybe. Thought that it was dragged out a little bit more. Maybe we thought he was in it a lot more, but
yeah,
definitely, yeah, seeing him in this season, like watch it. It's funny watching rewatching this now and after watching Obi-Wan and seeing his portrayal in Obi-Wan. Wow, two completely different characters. He's
yep,
actually threatening in this one, like
yep,
actually a menace. And then in
absolutely.
Obi-Wan, he's like, "Oh," and then gets stabbed by Reaver. Like, what the? That is not
Yep.
my Grand Inquisitor.
That's not my Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah,
Put
it's
that
not
on a
my Grand.
shirt.
But yeah, I thought this like when you said it's a bit slow. I mean, I do agree with you, but I think we were discussing this a bit like not too long ago. If it didn't establish much, we would have been like, where's the development? Where's the development? So it's like, well, if you but and then also you were saying about the Bad Batch, and this is where I liked this season of Rebels a lot more probably than any of the Bad Batch seasons, is because I still didn't really know, like obviously knowing the outcomes now, but even before and even watching it now, I can see how I wouldn't know where the story would kind of progress to. Like even in the future ones, we'll get into that. Like they kind of leave you on like the premise of what the rebels are trying to do, but you don't
Mm,
know where it's going. I feel like in
mm,
Bad Batch and everything we've gotten recently, you know the what the finale will be, like, and everything else in the middle is just going to build up to it. Like we
yeah,
knew that they were going to escape with like season 3 of Bad Batch, for spoilers if you haven't seen it, I guess. But we knew that the clones were gonna escape with the clones and destroy Tantus and all that kind of stuff. But we're just waiting for it to happen. That's
yeah,
what I mean. This one at least it may be filler, a lot of filler episodes, but there's still something new and different every time, and it's not always just a random creature, monster, beast, which I feel like every animated project needs to do now.
yeah,
Like this one had a lot of funny, unique kind of, even like the TIE fighter episode with the fruit. Like I rag on that one a little bit, but the idea of it is utterly weird, so weird, but
yeah,
it's fun and it develops their relationship, Zeb and Ezra. So it's like, well, that does two in one thing and it's unique. I don't think I've ever seen a TIE fighter like be hijacked and then used as like a sole premise of an episode. So
yeah.
there you go. But I think it would be good to discuss. Do you have a favorite quote, Cooper?
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
actually. And
I'd
this
like to
is
hear that.
this is a good one. So we're looking at the finale, which
Mm-hmm.
is called Fire Across the Galaxy. And also just quickly on this episode, I completely forgot that they were above Mustafar. Like,
Yep.
I
Mm.
didn't remember that from the
Mm.
first time I watched, and that's
Damn.
kind of crazy to think that literally Darth Vader could have been in the castle on Mustafar.
Chilling.
Obviously, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen season two.
Mm.
Vader does show up
Yep.
very early in season two, but just to know that he was kind of, or he could have been right there and
Lingering, maybe.
close,
Yeah.
it's quite cool to
Yeah.
think that. Anyway, my favorite quote comes from Kanan in the
Mm-hmm.
finale, and it's kind of embedded. Well, I have to give the context to this quote through other quotes. So
Mm.
Kanan says that was a mistake after the Grand Inquisitor. Um, Basically, he doesn't force push, but he throws his lightsaber at Ezra, and Ezra falls down
Yeah.
quite a bit, and then lands on a platform. Kanan thinks he's dead, so that was a mistake. And then Granny says, "Why? Because you have no one left to die for you." And then Kanan, so cool, says, "No, because I have nothing left to fear." Ignites two lightsabers. Holy
He
moly,
does that.
that was so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that was my favorite quote. Just
Yeah.
that's exactly what a Jedi would say. That's
Mm.
exactly what a master would say. That's
Yeah.
exactly what Kanan would say.
Yeah.
And Freddie Prinze Jr.'s delivery is just so good. So
Yeah.
good.
So good.
One
So
of the
good.
best voice acting castings, I think, in the entire animated projects
100%.
for Star Wars.
100%.
Anyway,
Might
what's
I
yours?
might I just add to that? I love Kanan Jarrus, but I absolutely despise his look with the ponytail and the facial hair. I do not like. Oh, it triggers me. I like what happens later on. It looks so much better when he.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not going to mention that now, but um, my one's from the Grand Inquisitor in the finale too, and I
Hmm.
think this one resonates with me because it builds up what we're going to get in the future, whilst also kind of showing us the viewers now, even though we think this is a massive deal, that there is literally this is not even like the base of what's about to happen. Like everything's going to like get so much like
Elevate,
more
yeah.
scarier, and everything's gonna mean much more. You know what I mean? So he says there are things more frightening than death when he's hanging off the edge talking to Kanan, and then just drops into the fiery explosion abyss
Yeah.
because he knows that if he survives this outcome and then everyone knows that he failed to stop the rebels, then he would be have to face Darth Vader. So
Yeah.
he does not want to answer to Darth. He does not want to reap the consequences that he will face there. He would rather just give up basically, and that shows that just that's chills. But we'll mention our chills moment in a second, but that's not the one I'm saying. However, that is also another one that left me like, wow, that is like if I was in a Star Wars thing and I had to sacrifice myself, I want a cool quote like that. I'm
Yeah.
not sacrifice, but like just die. I would love a quote like that. That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
That was a very good quote. I very
Yeah.
much enjoyed that one as well.
Mm.
I think
So
that's
cool.
probably his most iconic quote as well.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
All right.
good.
Um, we'll talk about our least favorite episode
Mm.
now, just because obviously this season isn't perfect, and
Yes.
there are some things that we want to discuss about. Um, you know, the season not being up to maybe the standard that we
Mm,
expect. But
yeah.
obviously, we'll give it a bit of lenience because it's the first season. Do you want to go first, or do you want me
Yeah.
to?
So I was tossing up between a few, obviously, because I think, like I was saying before, there's a few good moments in every single one. So it's hard to say like this one's the worst because even with my least favorite one, there's still moments and one particular character I'm going to say that I really enjoyed showing up. But I just the premise was useless. Did not care for the comedy in this episode, and it's
Yeah,
Ray
yeah.
with more what's his name again? The I
Wait,
forgot his name.
do you mean Lando?
No, I love Lando. No, Lando's the character I like showing
Okay.
up because it's cool. But the guy that they try to sell Hera and trade to,
Oh
that I hate
yeah,
that
I don't know.
guy.
The one with the big chin.
More more's more something I think it is. But utterly non unfunny. The pig kind of cute, but well, what's the point? Like it didn't progress anything. I did not care for kind of this weird like, oh, let's get Land like I know Lando's meant to be suave with words and everything, but why is like it feels so weird him showing up in the sense of in like Lothal and then also with the Rebels crew, especially in the time period it's set in. I just don't understand why he would be there. Like it's cool, yeah. We get to see him playing cards again. So after seeing Solo and how he cheats in cards all the time, and then get to see how suave he is with the ladies and how the men are always envious of him. But like it didn't progress anything. There was barely any, the action was pretty, in my opinion. Like there was like it was a whole bloody what's it called? Like fight at the end, but like hiding behind barrels with a gun. So
Yeah,
like didn't really understand what the point of that was. Chopper, I mean, uses his cool little fire guns and steals Lando's fuel, but then you even realize that Lando knew that too. He just said, "Oh, that's why I didn't pay them because they took my fuel." And I was like, "Well," at the end of it, I was like, "Oh, like that's really it." Like we went
yeah.
from like pretty cool episodes beforehand and then very cool episodes after, and then you just got this one plonked in the middle. And it's like this didn't progress, no character developments for our rebel crew apart from all the men being jealous. And that's it.
Yeah.
And a pig that gets frightened, it just becomes a puffer pig. So I
Yeah.
was like, wow, that was a waste of 20 something, 22 minutes, 20 minutes. So I was like, yep, that is definitely
Yeah.
not topping it for me, apart from Lando being cool. But once again, why is he there?
Well, I kind of concur, but I just thought that Lando was like good enough to warrant
Mm.
it being a good episode for me. So,
Ah, damn.
I mean, the one I'm about to mention, you might have enjoyed, which is fine. But this
Yeah.
one, I was just so bored throughout, and I don't know why. It's pretty like intense. It was Vision of Hope. And it's the one where the senator who's speaking out against the Empire on the
Oh yeah.
broadcasts
Mm.
kind of comes to Lothal, and then the
Yeah, I
Ghost
like
crew
this.
basically go and try to rescue him, but then it turns out he's actually a part of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was a boring premise. I thought it
Ah.
was a really like stupid kind of turn. It would have been
Mm.
cool if the senator actually was speaking out against the Empire and, Callus was leading this mission because he did know where he was, and then it was so desperate. But just, I think back to one scene where the senator, they're running through the sewer tunnels and then he just stops running because he's tired. What? I know he's trying to stall, but that's just lazy.
Mm.
Lazy. And
I don't know.
the whole turn and I don't know, just I don't
I initially on first watch got duped by that though. Like now, what obviously now watching it, you realize kind of like how Callus knew they were going there with the encrypted messages and stuff. But I think the build up was pretty cool from the previous episodes, how they would always listen to his kind of broadcasts and stuff. And I thought they kind of played the long game with that, which I thought was a pretty cool premise to that sense. I enjoyed it, but yeah.
But even so, just on the like discussing the actual broadcast itself, how stupid is it? Even as an Imperial, how is that strategic to broadcast like transmissions of
Propaganda.
hope and rebellion against
Propaganda.
the Empire from
Yeah.
someone who's in the Empire? That's just inspiring. That's
True.
just
It almost is like it's almost like when you say it like that, it's almost like they switched their idea of what they're gonna do with him if they were actually gonna have him be like a rebel or they're gonna have him as like a deceiver kind of thing. So I'm like, yeah, when you think of it like that, it is pretty weird how they let that happen and do it on purpose. So
yeah.
it's like,
That's I feel like it would have been better if he was an actual good guy and
good
a part
guy.
of the rebellion.
It
Yeah,
helps. It helps for Ezra's visions though, for the
it
premise
does.
that you can never trust your visions really to
Yeah,
like the full because he was so eager and excited to meet him,
yeah.
just
That's
to
another part
realize
I
he
didn't
didn't
really
know
like
it.
about the episode as well. Just like the whole visions bit because we've done it before. You know, he knows what happens to his parents, and it's like
Yeah.
we've been there. I just we
I don't
know.
know. I think it's cool to show how powerful he is. I think that's what it because like not a lot of Jedi's can force future visions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Like we only
That's
really know a couple at the time who actually could do that. And one of them
yeah.
obviously being Anakin. So
Mm.
yeah. So I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but
But you
yeah, I
liked
think
it.
there was a lot of other worse ones in my. I wouldn't say I wouldn't go as far as say it's one of my favorite ones. I just thought
Yeah.
it was an alright one. It wasn't.
Mhm.
I wouldn't consider like I thought the at least it progressed to kind of a plot in a sense. You know what I mean? Somewhat plot.
Yep.
But I think the main takeaway from this season is that I think it's a very, very good opening establishing one. And I think
Correct.
a lot of shows nowadays struggle to have a really good establishing season. Yet I think almost it maybe would have benefited from a few less episodes of like the unnecessary filler because I think by the end you do already have enough basis of they're a family. You know, they might hate each other sometimes or they might do things wrong, but eventually they'll kind of, work it out together and they willing to put themselves on the line for others. I think that message is across quite fast and promptly. That I
Yeah.
don't think they need to stretch it out so much, or
Yeah.
at least develop the Imperial side a little bit. In this season, especially, they really don't do much Imperial building. Aside from just saying like, oh, they're patrolling Lothal, or there's a Star Destroyer in orbit. Like you get a lot more of like Palace's side later and even Vader, and you get a lot more of the villainous kind of side later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the later seasons. However,
Absolutely.
like even with when Thrawn event, ooh, spoiler, and when Thrawn comes later, like um, you get a lot more development of their side. But in this one, it's like once again, it does the usual like, oh, they're patrolling everywhere. They are a threat, but we don't really get much of them being a threat aside from basically like the end. So it's like, well, but that's when
Yeah.
Tarkin comes in. So it's like on their own, without a massive figure that we already know who's a threat, they're not a threat. So
Yeah.
it's like, how does like 4 or 5? I know two of them are force sensitive, but technically three of them now after Ahsoka, but
Mm.
but we didn't know that obviously until later on. So we'll just brush off that. However, I would like to say that I enjoyed the portrayals of these characters in this season.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them were really like what's the word like
Weak.
weak or annoying to the point where
Mm.
I didn't want to see much of like I wanted to see like all of them. I know Hera probably had the least development, but I still got the feeling that she is the leader and that
Yes.
without her they would struggle to do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I
But
thought she was like the foundation. She's almost like the building blocks, right? Like she may not have the most interesting character or even development in general, but she's like the core of who they are as the rebels, as a family.
I agree.
Mm.
I would liken her to Hunter in Bad
Yeah,
Batch. But the
doesn't do
thing
much,
is,
but yeah.
in this season, that's kind of her only trait that she is the leader. She's very brave. She's very stoic.
Mm.
At least with Hera in the next 3 seasons, you
Yeah.
really get that development. We go to Ryloth and the home planet, and
Mm.
um, she gets in like some crazy dogfight like action, and there's a bunch of stuff that happens with Hera
Thrawn, when
in the later
Thrawn comes
seasons.
in,
Thrawn, yeah, they have a big history. So
history,
I
yeah.
just feel like this season, yeah, it's like Hunter just doesn't really have much else going on
To be
besides being a leader.
true, to be fair though, I feel like Kanan could be said the same, to be honest. I feel like aside from him training Ezra, he didn't really have much. Like he
I
didn't
disagree.
I know it gets it later, he becomes a lot more master, especially when what happens to him physically, he becomes a lot more of an actual leader and a role model, I think. I think now he's currently still a bit underdeveloped. I don't know if they knew they were going to go that direction in the sense of him later on. Because currently speaking, I'm like, this guy's barely a Jedi Knight rather than a master. Like he's pretty. I know Grand Inquisitor is meant to be good, but in comparison to what we've seen with all the other Inquisitors and other Jedi, and even how Ahsoka like so effortlessly killed so many other Inquisitors, like Kanan really, really did struggle against the Grand Inquisitor, which I always thought was a bit
Yeah.
really, but oh well. Like what can you do?
He's the
It's
Grand
it's
Inquisitor for a reason, you know.
true, but like I think now that we know what like how the Grand Inquisitor has been treated, I think it just looks worse. Like
Yeah.
if you just had him in this show, you'd be like, oh, he's probably like the best Inquisitor. He's like
Mhm.
next to Vader, but I'm like, he's not even close.
Yeah, no,
He's not
no,
even
no.
near his, like, so I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like even old Maul will still destroy the
Oh,
Grand Inquisitor. So
that'd be a good matchup for our Star Wars Duels
true. That would be
podcast.
cool. There'd be
That'd
a
be
lot of
very
this,
good.
yeah, definitely with the more we get later on, which
Yeah.
I think the thing is, I think the reason why I enjoyed the season a lot more is because of what I know was coming in the future.
Yeah.
So if I looked at it on its own, I'd probably be like, it's kind of yeah, which I
Yeah.
still think it is, but I think it just it's so cool to get through it to get to the build up of
Correct.
the
Yeah.
other seasons.
If you haven't like seen Rebels and okay, if you hadn't seen Rebels and you
Mm,
know that like well, so for me, like season two and season three are the best seasons of
mm,
Rebels.
I
So
think so.
if you
Yeah.
went in not having seen Rebels, but you knew that season two and three were the best,
Yeah.
you'd still have to watch season one, but you'd probably be pleasantly surprised
Yep.
how good it
True.
is. So,
True. But if you didn't know about anything from two to four onwards, you I don't know, like unless you're like really enjoyed, like I feel like a lot of people wouldn't enjoy season one that
yeah.
much. You know what I mean?
Well,
If you don't know what's coming
you would
after it.
say it's the weakest season of the four.
Yeah. But it's also like, would people, like general viewers, after watching season one, be willing to go watch more? I think maybe after the
Yeah.
finale, they might be. But as a whole, they might be like, oh, if it's going to be like season one again, where it's so much filler, unnecessary kind of things, not many interesting other villainous characters. But then eventually, once they start season two, they'll realize, wow,
Yeah.
lucky we did. But it's more like, do they
Yeah.
get to that stage if they don't know what's happening next?
Yeah. And
Because,
obviously
yes.
we'll chat about season two sometime in the future, probably after our Acolyte reviews and stuff. But
Mm,
season two really improves on what season one didn't do very well. Obviously, it's
yep.
got a lot more episodes, so it can spend time doing that.
Hmm.
I think that Ezra probably gets the most. Actually, no, yeah, Ezra, no, season three. I'm
Mm,
sticking with
yeah.
season three. Ezra gets the
Yeah.
most development. But there's a lot more action. They introduce a lot
100%.
of villains. Obviously, we get Fulcrum
Hmm.
in
Reveal. Yeah.
season. She's a big presence,
Hmm.
and yeah, so it's exciting to see.
Yep.
It'll be exciting to review that
100%.
when we get
Yeah.
to because I really think Rebel season two is my favorite
It
season of Rebels.
it's actually kind of sad that we think about it that we haven't even touched on Rebels that much
I
until now.
know, I know.
It's such a good show. I think that
Yeah,
either a lot of people overlook or they just know it's a good show, but
yeah,
no one really speaks about it. Like no
correct.
one really talks about it. And I think it's one that definitely deserves, I think everyone needs to get on board with it because especially I know you're a Bad Batch lover, but oh man, watching Rebels and Clone Wars compared to Bad Batch is oh,
Mm,
storytelling and characters. Oh,
mm,
action.
uh,
Oh, everything's so much better. It's so much better. Such
mm.
a good show, Rebels. I love it.
We'll agree to disagree. It is a great show, but
Great show.
yeah, I don't know.
Ugh, Bad Batch. Oh.
All right, let's finish with what I'm calling, or we're calling,
Mhm.
the biggest I got chills moment.
Yes, yes, yes.
I would like to tell you mine first.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready.
I still think to this day this might be alongside Yoda in Attack of the Clones,
Yeah.
the most hype I've got for a Jedi reveal ever. Kanan in episode two
Mm.
steps over the crates,
Yep.
dodges the blaster bolt so effortlessly, ignite the lightsaber, powerful music. I was on the floor. That was so perfect. And I
Oh yeah.
got chills.
Yep.
So,
I was gonna say that would be my second one. That would be my second one.
yeah, what's your
Uh,
one?
it's a simpler one, but I don't know what it is. I really liked the moment. Ezra opening the holocron. I see. That's what I'm saying. No one would say it, but I don't know what it is. I just love it. I just love how he, he just didn't even intentionally mean to, and then he connected with it, and then he realizes what he could possibly be. I don't know. It's just a really cool little touch because you don't really get to see many Jedi's opening holocrons anymore. Like I know you get to see obviously, later on in the Rebel show, obviously Sith holocrons and everything, but aside from some Clone Wars ones, you don't get to see much opening holocrons and I love how everything that Ezra does is almost in this season is almost unintentional Jedi kind of stuff. Like even when he was deflecting the blaster bolts, he did that because of his visions. Anything has everything's related to his emotions, right? Which I think is a really cool premise. And I just love how he opened the holocron with just kind of more of an emotional kind of element with it rather than intentionally opening it.
Sorry, I just want to understand if I'm hearing you correctly. You said that that was the biggest I got chills moment.
Yeah, because it was something that I didn't expect this time watching it. I was expecting it to be the most generic, like either Grand Inquisitor's
Mm,
death, Kanan getting the two lightsabers, Kanan igniting his lightsaber. I was thinking it was all going to be them, which I still don't get me wrong. I still got chills on the other ones, but this one would surprise me. So maybe, yeah, maybe I maybe misread the thing, but it's the most surprising chills moment that I didn't expect to get.
Okay.
Like when
All
the other
right.
ones, I was already assuming I was going to get chills for. So I was
Okay.
like, I
That's fair enough.
was
That's fair
expecting
enough.
to get chills when he does dodges a bolt, ignites the lightsaber. Kind of expecting it. You know what I mean? But like this one, I was like, damn, I really like that. I was
Okay.
surprised by that. Yeah. So,
That's
and I
fair enough.
told you it would be one that no one would have. It's just, I don't know. I think it's a nice touch to a very cool kind of moment when he needed it the most, kind of. So yeah, I liked it.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Alrighty. Do you have anything else to add? Because
Not
I
really. I
think
think
we're
the season was pretty
yeah.
self-explanatory, and we've kind of broken it down the best we could. I think
Yeah.
for the most part, I think everything else, especially the other seasons being a bit longer, it's gonna be a lot more. I think so. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So obviously we're gonna have Acolyte for a couple weeks
Mm-hmm.
uh for our podcasts.
Yeah.
So that will we'll have to delay, well not delay, but we'll have to put out our season 2 one
Yeah. After
after Acolyte because we just don't want
too
to
much
miss
watching
any of
stuff,
the
then
Acolyte. That's it. That's it, yeah.
yeah, can't watch everything.
That's it. No, we can't. We can't. And we can't put out a video every day about it because
Yeah.
that's just too much work. We got other
Yeah.
stuff going on.
Yeah.
Alrighty, that'll do us for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe. Help us get to 300 subscribers, and we will see you next week. See you guys.
Yeah.